Audible is audio entertainment that entertains, educates, and inspires. For you, listeners of CreepGeeks Podcast, Audible is offering a free audiobook download with a free 30-day trial to give you the opportunity to check out their service. To download your free audiobook today, go to audibletrial.com/cheapgeek. Again, that's audibletrial.com/cheapgeek for your free audiobook.
So it begins again. Welcome back to CreepGeeks Podcast. I'm Greg.
I'm Omi.
And this is episode number 206.
CIA UFO archive released, MIB Men in Black, Bigelow, and it's Bigfoot season.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So here we are again. We got a lot of stuff to talk about in this particular episode of the CreepGeeks Podcast, episode number 206.
Yep.
And so a lot of things have transpired since the last podcast episode we have done.
Okay.
As it usually does. And since we are a paranormal and weird news podcast, we like to keep current with current events, because that's kind of what we do here. And if it's your very first time tuning in to the podcast, we're glad to have you here. And our podcast is a offbeat news podcast. It takes a lighthearted approach to the paranormal, cryptid, supernatural, strange, the silly, and trending tech topics circulating the web. And where do we broadcast from?
We broadcast paranormal news and fun stories from our underground bunker in the mountains of western North Carolina.
Yeah, we sure do. Okay, so if you'd like to contribute, like maybe during a podcast you find something to be interesting and you're like, you know what, I should tell those guys.
Yeah.
We have a phone number.
And that phone number is going to be 575-208-4025.
Yeah. And, pretty much you can call that number and leave a message if you want, like a voicemail. We'll play it on the show, as long as it's, not...
Cool. Just be cool, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And on top of all that, we do have some social media presences for you to kind of check us out. We have a Facebook page.
CreepGeeks Podcast.
And a Facebook group.
CreepGeeks Facebook group.
See how hard this is getting? And a website.
CreepGeeks.com.
Yeah. And on CreepGeeks.com, we actually have a little contact form you can click on and you can fill it out. If you don't want to talk on the phone, you can like blah, 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 and then hit send, and then sooner or later we'll get it.
Eventually.
Mostly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, a couple things else you can do to help us out is if you listen to the podcast on wherever you're listening to us right now, you can do a review if you want, little rating. As we've done in the past, we accept only the finest quality 3 to 5 star reviews. But, no pressure. So, yeah.
Yeah.
All right. And one more thing. We do affiliate stuff to help support the podcast, and we also have a Patreon page. But with the affiliate stuff, if you buy anything off Amazon at all, using our link, and your price doesn't change, of course, we'll get a little something. And it helps us keep coffee and gas flowing in the Albino Rhino, our DIY super camper adventure mobile of destruction and investigation machine.
And that link is going to be in the show notes for this podcast episode. So just when you're listening, go ahead and just check the show notes.
Yeah, because everything we talk about on the podcast and all the links and the places where we get stuff is right there for you to
peruse.
Yeah, at your leisure.
Yeah.
There you go. Well, okay, I think that about does it for the CreepGeeks podcast. No, it's something we got to do. I mean, it's just something that's out there. And also with our Patreon page, if you want to go check that out and kind of see what's up, that's patreon.com/CreepGeeks. CreepGeeks.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so we thought we'd kind of do something a little bit new and add the Fortean term of the day.
I like this.
I do too, but I realize now that I should have put Fortean so that you actually know what Fortean means. That'd have been really smart, but it wasn't. Okay, so when you talk about, paranormal stuff in general, whether it's ghosts, UFOs, Bigfoots, cryptids, any kind of thing like that, it's all under the general term of Fortean or Fortean.
Mm-hmm.
However you want to pronounce it is fine. I won't judge you.
Relating to or denoting paranormal phenomena.
Yeah. So it's like a blanket term, but
Yes.
I didn't do that. For this one, I put in PSYOP.
Oh.
And PSYOP, spelled PSYOP, It's basically psychological operations that are psychological operations are operations to convey selected information and indicators to audiences to influence their emotions, motives, objective reasoning, and ultimately the behavior of governments, organizations, groups, and individuals.
And that definition is taken from Wikipedia.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's the official...
That's the official Wikipedia
definition of PSYOP, or psychological operations for short.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like a diversionary tactic.
So when, people come at you with, did you hear about the latest PSYOP? That's what they're saying.
Yeah. So we thought we'd kind of start doing that. So we're going to have the 40 term of the day. So, because one of the things we do like to do is talk about stuff, and why not talk about some of the terms? And what I realized is that there are some terms we use that if you're new to this whole sort of thing, or if you have maybe slightly more of a passing interest into it, it would probably be good to kind of know some of the stuff that we're talking about. We just take it for granted that most people already know everything we're talking about.
Yeah, and I think this
and
helps.
Most people do, but I mean, it does help the new people.
Well, a good example would be like I'm in a Mothman group, and some guy was in there posting just stuff about Mothman, and he kept talking about Virginia. And actually, one of our buddies from Wild and Weird, West Virginia, hopped in there and tried to give him some backstory and some education about it. And this guy was kind of oblivious to a lot of what Wild and Weird was sharing with him.
Yeah, because what they're doing is they're watching these shows.
Or pop culture and games.
And it's like trading cards. You get the abridged version of what they want to show you and what they want to tell you, and that's it. And then later on you find out, some things that may make your view of whatever the subject is
a little more
different.
A little more well-rounded.
Yeah, or different.
Yeah.
Or as in like, wow, that was completely junk, and I don't know why when I watched that show, that's what they said. And we're talking about all these shows that are coming out now.
Yeah.
Like on Discovery Plus and Travel Channel and all this stuff. And it's amazing to see some of the shows that we watched in 2012 get rebranded like they're new.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, and anyway, it's a thing. So speaking of news, let's move into some news that I thought was pretty interesting here. You ready?
Okay.
So disclosure was supposed to happen, or is supposed to happen, within like 150 days or whatever. We started to kind of like set a clock for it, but then we realized that who cares? I mean, really, it's like, and we got this many days till disclosure, because it could be a whole psyop.
But see,
a diversionary tactic to get you looking at something else, get you feeling a certain kind of way,
And that's very true, because this whole path to disclosure or clock to disclosure, unfortunately, you're still dealing with two different things. The expectation from society, and then what is actually done.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, if you said, okay, you have to turn over everything you have about UFOs, well, where does that go? Okay, so say you're this dude in the military, and it's your job to maintain that little section of information that you have. And you get a little letter or email from somebody more important to you that says, okay, you need to release all this to the public on this day. You're going to release what you have. And I do think that the really good stuff, the really good information, maybe the stuff that they don't want the general public or anybody to know, is probably not going to be where it can just be released. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It's a thing. And it's kind of one of those things where it's almost like looking for Bigfoot or Sasquatch. Unless there's a body, nobody cares, honestly. And no, we care. And what I mean by nobody cares is the general populace doesn't really care. They look at it and go, oh, whatever, Bigfoot. And they think the shows are cool if they even watch them at all. But until somebody says this is Sasquatch, and it makes the front page news, and people get all freaked out, and it becomes a thing, nobody's going to care.
Okay.
Which is okay. You can believe what you want to believe, but the thing is that this whole thing, everything, here recently in the past year, 2 years, it just seems like it's just a way for, it's like, I don't know, man. It's weird. It's like people care, but they don't really care. Because if you have something going on that's taking all your attention, when something important does happen, it creates a smaller blip than if there's nothing going on. And if everybody's worried about things, and then that little blip happens, you say, well, I don't have time to worry about that, or that doesn't measure as high because I got so much other stuff going on. It would be the perfect time to release things.
True.
But nobody's going to care because they're like worried about, oh man, for a lot of people, I haven't paid my rent in 8 months.
Yeah. Well, like to go with with your position. Like, I remember at the beginning of 2020, there was a very brief blip of a meme, and it was like, we did surgery on a grape. And it was actually a pretty, like, big medical breakthrough that these little lasers and tools could do surgery that fine. And nobody cared because we were so busy with everything else.
There's a lot of things that happened that should have been.
But then to go against what you're saying, I think our expectation of what we want to see the bar's been raised. So,
yeah.
I mean, yeah, there's been a lot of big stuff that happened in 2020, but I think my expectation is a little greater than what's been presented, especially with what we're going to talk about, the UFO stuff and disclosure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, anyway, what we thought we would do is take a look and see, because we did kind of like say, hey, in a certain number of days, there's going to be full UFO disclosure. Well, evidently, the Central Intelligence Agency, otherwise known as the CIA, has released their stuff of what they have on file for UFOs, paranormal stuff, and ghosts and weird stuff like that. Because evidently Black Vault has it.
Okay.
And Black Vault is the place that basically had the videos and stuff of the U.S. Navy's footage of flying phenomena.
UAPs.
Yeah.
The TikTok.
And, yeah, but like TikTok and...
TikTok, sorry.
Whatever it was. What did I say, TikTok?
Yeah.
Yeah, whatever it is. And, that footage was released, and pretty much, if I remember correctly, through the Stars Academy are the ones who were like, look what we did. And they got it from Black Vault, and Black Vault pretty much just got no love.
Yeah.
And this is my opinion, and it may be wrong, but it's mine to have, and I think that they should have gotten a lot more credit for doing all the work, because they've submitted, tons of Freedom of Information Act requests to get information. And then here, through the Stars Academy, or to the Stars Academy, or whatever you want to call it, hey, look what we did. Because they never really, they took it, and of course they publicized it, and they made it something, but they never really sort of said, hey, we got this from, at least it wasn't apparent until later on. But so what we did was we actually included a link, and you can click on that link, and it'll take you to Black Vault, theblackvault.com, and it goes into their document archive, and from there it has 1,000 pages. More than 1,000 pages. It says originally the CIA would only release about 1,000 pages that had been previously disclosed after a FOIA court case in the 1980s.
Yeah.
And they never addressed the records that were dated years after the case. And so the Black Vault spent years fighting for them, and they were released in the late 90s. Over the time, the CIA made a CD-ROM, probably full of CIA stuff. Just, watch what you're doing and all that stuff. And so it had the original records and stuff like that. But anyway, so they have all the stuff that they've got so far. And it says, please note, some media channels are reporting that I filed 10,000 FOIA requests or Freedom of Information Act requests to get these documents. That is untrue. Over the years, there were quite a few, but the reference is the Black Vault has filed 10,000 FOIA requests total to amass this 2.2 million pages in this entire archive. Now, just below for the documents, I've submitted corrections to Vice so far with no response. So, the entire CIA UFO collection CD-ROM is 2,780 pages, right, which is the contents of the original CD-ROM as they received it.
Yeah.
Multi-page TIFF files,
Ow.
which says not searchable. And basically, tagged interchange file format or TIFF or whatever is kind of like a generic RAW file if you do photography.
Mm-hmm.
And that just means that it's a large image. It's like a big picture to give you the better resolution and all that sort of thing, to where you could blow it up and read the words and all that kind of stuff. It's a faster way to archive information than it would be to make PDFs out of everything like that. Now, there is places to download individual files if you want to check it out on the website. So go to theblackvault.com if you want to kind of do your own research, because I'll be honest with you, I'm not going through 2,780 plus pages to try to figure some stuff out.
Oh my God, I'm still scrolling.
Yeah, I'm going to wait until people start bringing it up and go, whoa, did you see this? And then I'm going to go look. You know what I mean? Because this is one of those rabbit hole things that you could just fall down, and I don't sleep enough as it is right now, so, you know.
Yeah.
But since we brought it up before, we figured we would bring it up now and give you the link, and because the Black Vault has done the work, and they are the recipient of this, you know, easy to digest and researchable format.
They've definitely done legwork on this.
Yeah, they get the prize, man. And so there you go. Thank you very much to theblackvault.com for doing your due diligence.
Yeah.
And I hope you get all the credit in the world. Even though, you know, they kind of did you wrong by saying, you know, 1 million, you know, well, it's a little exaggerated, however, but.
Which is funny because
10,000 FOIA requests, that'd be a lot of work.
Yeah. And
Not
it's,
to say you haven't done a lot of work.
like, I think a few episodes ago, I was actually commending Vice for being one of the more legitimate news outlets lately. Or at least for 2020, I should say.
Or, well, let's just make it like this.
Yeah.
For at least that particular thing that we were talking about. Because Vice is Vice, man.
Yeah.
I mean, but
so to see this statement from Black Vault is like, oh, okay. So,
well, I mean, you know, they want to be legit. They don't want to have to go through all the stuff, and you know, when somebody misreports things, and it skews your credibility.
Yeah.
So anyway, there you go. So go to theblackvault.com and check out the Central Intelligence Agency collection of UFO stuff.
Yeah.
Now, is any other organizations out there released their stuff yet? I don't think so. I haven't heard anything, but, you know, might be wrong.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure they haven't, though, because they still have time to do whatever it is they have to do to make sure that whatever they release is just a bunch of fluff with maybe some, you know, psyop things pointing in a different direction. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, you never know what's really real and what's not real. I mean, it's the CIA, right? They're like spies. So what's to say that everything that comes out in these little documents are not diversionary tactics to something else?
Okay.
Yeah. So anyway, there you go.
All right.
Yeah. Okay, so we got a little contact.
Yeah. From our roving reporter, Bobby B.
Yeah.
And he's from Asheville Past Lives Project.
Wait, in the future, it's going to be our robot reporter, Bobby B.
Don't say robot. Why?
Because it's the future's coming, man.
Okay.
Got to be nice to the machines.
But he's got to opt into that whole, you know, he's got to read the terms and conditions before he gets converted to a robot.
Does he?
I would hope so.
Robots don't care about feelings.
Anyways, Bobby...
Or facts.
Bobby pushed us across the CreepGeeks news table, and we decided to cover it. And this is Robert Bigelow in the news. Can Robert Bigelow and the rest of us survive death?
Bobby B?
Yeah.
Bobby B.
Oh, wow.
I wish I had some sound effects. Dun, dun, dun.
Dun, dun.
Yeah. No, that's more like Law and Order.
Well, it looks like BB, at least in this case, Bob Bigelow, he's offering nearly $1 million for you to help him figure out if there's a way to survive death or what's across the river.
He wants the proof.
Yeah, he wants the
life
proof.
after death.
Yeah. And it looks like he's offering nearly $1 million in prizes for the best evidence for the survival of consciousness after permanent bodily death. So, I don't know. Is he trying to prove that consciousness survives afterward or life after death in general?
Yes.
Okay.
I don't know. I mean, he could be doing both. Who knows exactly?
Yeah.
But if you don't know who Bob Bigelow is, aerospace kind of a guy, owned Skinwalker Ranch for a while.
Yeah.
Did some investigation stuff at Skinwalker on behalf of the government. He's kind of like this sort of mysterious, but not too mysterious, kind of Howard Hughes kind of guy that's all into this stuff. And he's done some government contracts, and you know he's into the paranormal, man. He digs it. He doesn't care who knows.
Yeah, and it's funny because like when we've talked about him on one of the previous episodes recently, the paranormal rangers and the Navajo Paranormal Rangers, how some of their investigations, they go out there and Bigelow people were already there.
Yeah.
You know, so he's got his hands in a lot of different stuff in the paranormal or Fortean world. With all this stuff that he's been active in, whether it's been like space or paranormal, Skinwalker, that type of thing, I wouldn't be surprised if he decided to do life after death next.
Yeah, why not?
You know? Now, we have a link to the article talking about this contest. But he is offering $1 million in prizes.
Yep.
Yeah. So
he's like, the article goes, and this is by Ralph Blumenthal from the New York Times. What's across the river Styx? Robert Thomas Bigelow would like to know. And it says, Mr. Bigelow is not just anyone or any 76-year-old mourning a wife and confronting his own mortality. He's a maverick Las Vegas real estate and aerospace mogul with billionaire allure and resources to fund his restless curiosity.
I just clicked on the link.
Yeah.
$500,000 is the first prize. $300,000 second place. $150,000 for third place.
In fourth place, set of steak knives.
No, it's a gift card for Budget Sweets Inn.
Oh, sweet. So, kind of weird.
Yeah, and it's.
But I mean, I like this because what better way to motivate people to find the secrets of the universe than to offer them money?
Yeah. Well,
it's better than a cold ham sandwich and a slap on the back, I guess.
It's an essay.
You have to write an essay?
Yeah.
I'm out.
Well, you have until August 1st, and then the winners will be announced November 1st.
So this is not like the, what's his guy, the great Randy, the skeptic dude who said, I'd give you $1 million if you can prove anything. Not that guy, right? Because he passed away a while ago, but
yeah.
He was the skeptic that says, if you can prove whatever, I'll give you $1 million. I mean, it was everything from like levitation to ESP, whatever it was, ghosts. So this is pretty much, he just wants some kind of confirmation. So he's open to the idea.
Yeah.
I guess.
He has 1, 2, 3. He's got 6 judges, I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
Most of them are doctors. So an author and a researcher, a professor of statistics, president and CEO of Earth Tech, a psychiatrist person, a forensic neurologist, associate dean of faculty, Rice University. So he's got some big names on this.
See, he's got his own little tragedies going on. His son unfortunately passed away and his wife passed away last June. And
oh, man.
When his wife was alive, and they both did like seance type stuff, right? Not seance, but they went to a medium named George Anderson to be able to sort of contact and see, get some information, I guess, and reach out to their son.
Oh.
And so the question was, did their son make contact? And not really, Mr. Bigelow said, but what I got out of the readings, I think, was that his spirit existed and that he was okay.
Oh.
So, and so finding few researchers seriously studying afterlife experiences, the couple in 1997 endowed the Bigelow Chair of Consciousness Studies at the University of Nevada, Las Vegas, with a $3.7 million gift.
Oh.
So he's putting money into it. He wants more serious research to be done in this kind of thing.
Yeah.
And, that's going to be what it takes to find any kind of anything is serious research, and that requires money. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So for him to put the money through $3.7 million and kind of do that and actually add some more money incentive to this sort of thing, I think if more investigators had funding, like real funding and real money to be able to kind of do their research, then I think we would have probably some more information about everything.
Oh. And
you know what I mean?
Yeah, and it does look like this is meant for legitimate, I hate to say it, legitimate researchers.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that bad. I'm saying that as in kind of cuts us out of there because it's like entrants must qualify as serious researchers by February 28th with at least 5 years of study in the field, preferably in affiliation with groups like Society for Psychical Research. And it's going to be a 25,000-word essay or document.
Yeah. I mean, it kind of makes sense.
Wow. Okay.
I mean, there's a lot of people out there who've been researching things for 30, 40, 50 years, and they try to do it as seriously as they can, and that's the kind of stuff he wants.
Yeah.
He doesn't want, people who buy, and I'm not dogging anybody because, anybody can be in this category too. He doesn't want the expert, self-proclaimed expert, who bought a spirit box off a Wish and who's been doing it for a minute. He wants like scientific method. He wants people that are, putting the standards to the investigation.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking of a couple people, like, let's look at like, Meldrum, right?
Yeah.
Like in he's already a professor and he's already doing that sort of research thing. And Jeffrey Meldrum, right? I mean, he is like legit. He does the Bigfoot stuff and he looks for things like, he looks for things that normal people wouldn't look for, like dermal ridges and castings and things like that. But he actually is a for real
full professor of anatomy and anthropology.
Anatomy of anthropology. He's not.
Oh, he's also an adjunct professor of occupational and physical therapy.
Which would make sense because, I mean, if you think about what he's talking about, what he likes to look at with the castings and the footprints and things like that.
Mobility.
And the mobility and the movements and all that stuff, it all makes sense because you have to know how the leg works, the foot works, and all so to be able to determine what's, a print.
Morphology and locomotion is the exact terms that we're looking for. Yeah.
And that's exactly why we won't win Bob Bigelow's money.
No amount
it's not
of
our area of
Grammarly is going to help us.
We can sort of talk about it and understand what you're trying to show us, but this is not our full time, our study of expertise.
What?
What? Yeah.
Okay, but Bobby says he's going to do it.
I think he should do it.
Yeah.
He should go for it. He should totally do it. He should write a 25,000 word essay.
I'll proofread half of it.
I won't do that. No, I mean, I would. I don't know. It's a thing, and I'm hoping that there's some kind of something out there. You know what I mean? Some kind of something out there that can be sort of like have a spotlight shined on it or shown or whatever. I mean, to put a light on something that somebody's really worked hard to do that just basically says, huh. See, because a lot of people. And a lot of scientists and a lot of professors and all that sort of thing, they don't really put the effort into it. I mean, they have their own efforts and they do their own research, but they don't put the effort into proving what they're doing a lot of times because for fear of losing their own funding.
Or the amount of effort and energy it takes just to get the funding for that particular thing.
Yeah, and some people, are like, hey, you know what? You're going to give me a bunch of funding to go find Bigfoot. I'm going to hole up in a Motel 8 for about 3 weeks with some kids and party it up from University of New Mexico.
And it's stuff like that causes these people more trouble trying to get grants and funding for this stuff.
Yeah, you lose credibility. If you lose credibility, you can lose funding. And if you lose funding, you lose your livelihood. So I get it. It's a thing.
Yeah.
Which kind of also ties into what we're going to talk about a little bit later in our podcast.
Yeah.
So, anyway, I thought that was kind of interesting to put in there, and interesting by way of Bobby B. We do have a link to his webpage in our show notes, so if you'd like to check Bobby B out and some of the stuff he's been up to, please do. And it's a link to his blog.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's pretty nice. Pretty nice. Okay, so moving back into the podcast real quick, as do a little side cert. I thought this was kind of interesting, and it's basically something that...
It's been making the rounds.
Yeah, it's been making the rounds, and it's like, oh, this makes sense. And the first thing I thought of was a Looney Tunes cartoon. Okay, so I seen it, right, and it's like, is this for real? And of course it is, because Bigfoot hunting season, Oklahoma lawmaker wants open season on Sasquatch.
This is awful. I mean, the reason behind it is...
Well, let's dive... Yeah, everybody knows what the reason is going to be, but an Oklahoma lawmaker has introduced a bill to establish a Bigfoot hunting season in hopes of capitalizing on Bigfoot tourism in the area.
Okay.
Now, I can already think of one reason why you shouldn't do that, because we've been doing a podcast for at least 206 episodes, and one of the stories we talked about was this dude, a hunter, who, if he even thinks he sees Bigfoots in the woods, shoots at it.
And then we had to follow up because he did it again. Do you remember that?
And there was a person who shot a hunter because they said it was Bigfoot, and there was a lady who was a Bigfoot hunter who shot somebody in a campsite.
Yeah.
That was a little bit of a different story. She used the sort of cover idea that there was something going on, and she shot it because she thought it might be. But the point is, if you make this a hunting season, people will go out and say, I'm going to shoot me a Bigfoot.
Mm-hmm.
and it's pretty much somebody's uncle is going to get shot.
Yeah.
Or aunt, or sister, brother, whatever.
And doesn't that throw liability onto the state, or could possibly throw?
No, because then you could make any hunting accident responsibility of the state.
Okay.
So here's kind of what it says. State Representative Justin Humphrey filed House Bill 1648, which would direct the Oklahoma Department of Wildlife Conservation to establish a Bigfoot hunting season, like an annual hunting season, as well as Bigfoot hunting license tag and associated fees. So,
okay, that part right there stands out, because that means he is going to find a way to make existing resources like Fish and Game have to enforce and manage things like hunting licenses, checking for tags. You can't just literally drive to Oklahoma, drop into a national forest or wilderness area and go looking for Bigfoot, because that means you could possibly face a Fish and Game violation.
well, okay. I mean, I get it. I know what he's trying to do. He wants to do this for tourism and all that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And he's like, I want to be really clear. We're not going to kill Bigfoot. We are going to trap a live Bigfoot. We are not promoting killing a Bigfoot. We are promoting hunting Bigfoot, trying to find evidence of Bigfoot. And Humphrey wants to establish a $25,000 bounty for the first person to catch Bigfoot.
I'm sorry, but this...
I had one lady just scream at me that she is going to make sure I will get beat because of this and told me I've lost my mind. I don't think they understand what we're trying to do to promote our area.
If he's trying to capitalize on Bigfoot tourism...
And merchandise, of course.
Yeah, but that means you can't just go walking around in the woods looking for Bigfoot in Oklahoma anymore. You need to have a hunting license.
I think you're reading way too far into this.
All right.
Because I mean, if you don't actively bring anything back, if you happen to go out and take a picture of Bigfoot or whatever, I mean, you're not hunting him.
I don't know.
And see, you got to remember, you don't hunt, so you don't know all the rules.
Okay.
I don't hunt, so I don't know all the rules.
I know. I don't know.
I mean, I understand what he's trying to do. He's trying to bring the tourism in and all that sort of thing. And evidently in Oklahoma, there's a lot of hunters out there in that particular area, and that's cool. And they have an annual Bigfoot festival, you know?
Yeah.
But I kind of think the way it came across is like you've got idiots out there, us included, that are like, you can't go out there and shoot Bigfoot. And it's not that you couldn't go out there and shoot Bigfoot. I mean, honestly, if it came down to where I thought I was going to be attacked and killed to death by Bigfoot and I had a weapon, I would probably fire off a couple shots.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not going to go down because, Bigfoot looks too much like a human. Look, he's coming at you to rip your arms off and stuff you up in a tree. I'm going to shoot at it.
Okay.
If I think I'm going to get attacked and killed to death, I'm going to shoot at it.
True.
You know, I mean, you know what I mean? Bears, whatever, right?
Yeah.
Now, if I just happen to see Bigfoot like in those beef jerky commercials, minding his own business, I'm not going to start shooting off at him.
No.
But there are other people who would and who will. And then they'll make a TV show about it.
And see, that's the thing. There's people out there that feel that way, and those are the people clashing with the do not hurt Bigfoot people. And that's the argument that's going on, when in truth, I feel like the argument should be something else, which is, should you be using Bigfoot as a way to capitalize on tourism in this manner? And I don't think that should be the case.
See, that's the whole thing. It doesn't sit well.
Yeah.
And that's only because we take this a little bit more seriously than the average person. Because there's a whole world out there that's like, oh, that's funny.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, if you were there in Oklahoma and you had the ability to buy like a Bigfoot hunting permit, like a legit Bigfoot hunting permit that maybe came with a sticker, you know, that kind of thing, you're going to buy one, whether you want to do it or not, especially if they have the annual Bigfoot festival and you happen to be there.
Yeah.
But if it's like legit and it's got like a number and all that stuff, and, you know, they issue tags and all this crazy stuff.
If you're in a Bigfoot area.
Yeah, that does make it more serious. So if you were like an avid Bigfoot hunter, kind of like, you know, interested person, you're like, you might buy it just because it's legit. So you're going to buy it because it's, you know, kind of funny, and then you're going to buy it because it's legit. But then you have that subgroup. It's like finally. You know what I mean?
The look on your face right now.
Finally. I will be legitimized when I go out and capture Bigfoot. You know what I mean? So it's like, there's no good for this kind of thing.
I don't think this is the way to go about it. I think, like, Marion's official town mascot is Bigfoot. And there's other towns with, like, high concentrations of Bigfoot encounters. And they have a town mascot or even a city mascot or official city animal. That's the way to go. Not, we're going to issue permits because, you know, me and my position on government stuff.
Well,
why do I need
I mean, you know, hey, you got some people out there that look at Bigfoot or Sasquatch as being like Harry and the Hendersons, all nice and misunderstood. You know, other people are like, there's hunters being ripped apart and stuffed in trees.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, I don't think, regardless of how many tags they sell or whatever they're selling to be able to capture Bigfoot and win those cash and prizes, is going to elicit anything more than faked evidence, no evidence.
That's true.
You know, and I think that was kind of the tack that this guy probably took. It's like, you know what? The odds of people out there actually bringing us, you know, a live Bigfoot are probably pretty slim because it hasn't happened before. You know what I mean? You can't. There hasn't been one hit by a car. There hasn't been one hit by a train. They can't find any bones. I mean, even if you look at it from like a helicopter view, this whole thing, you know, if there are as many Bigfoots as they say there are, and they stay away from humans and all that stuff and everything else, and, you know, I'm sure there's people out there like, that's not true. Where's the evidence, right?
Oh, man.
We should have something.
Yeah, but
aside from footprints and castings and stick structures and
now I'm like sitting here like imagining somebody
or headless mice wrapped in leaves.
Yeah, somebody manages to get legitimate evidence through this. Could you imagine the court case going all the way to Supreme League? John, Bigfoot hunter versus the state of Oklahoma. Where's my prize money for getting Bigfoot?
Yeah, because if you don't have any proof, how do you actually prove it? I mean, it's going to come down to there needs to be a body.
Yeah. And
I don't know. Anyway, we're spending too much time on this dipshittery. Let's move back into the podcast.
Yeah.
And look at the second one that I put in there. It's kind of like point counterpoint.
Okay.
Right? So, Eureka, home of recent Bigfoot sighting, tells the curious to stay away.
Oh.
And this is off Mysterious Universe. And it says there are cities that hold annual Bigfoot festivals and are proud to claim local Sasquatch as one of their own. And there's also congressional areas that are pushing through to legalize Bigfoot hunting, and I'm sure that's going to be a link to the Oklahoma thing.
Yeah.
To boost the local economy with license fees and revenue from hunters, and lodging and dining, of course, right? All that stuff. And it says, then there's Eureka, California, who's issued a statement telling the public that despite rumors and alleged photos to the contrary, it has no Bigfoot, and would appreciate it if people would stay away. Until its new skywalk is completed. And unfortunately, that's the same skywalk where the alleged Bigfoot was photographed. So who's going to win the war over Bigfoot in Eureka? It's a pretty big place, but none of our staff has reported anything. So this guy, Miles Slattery, who's the city manager of Eureka, thinks that it's, you know, it should be enough to keep Bigfoot fans out of the park and out of Sequoia Park, right?
Yeah.
And so he's thinking that if he warns them to stay away, that they'll stay away so they can complete the project because they don't want to worry about, you know, people out in the woods doing all that stuff.
I see. That's completely fair.
I'm thinking that's dumb because now that he's brought eyeballs to it, somebody's going to be like, "Hey, let's go over and see if we can find that Bigfoot in Eureka." They don't want nobody out there because they're hiding something.
And I clicked on the link to see the photo.
Yeah,
I'm not terribly impressed with the photo because I'm looking at it and I'm seeing what looks like building materials for the skywalk, honestly.
Yeah.
And it's just posted on this one website about King Bigfoot social distance champ takes on social media. Okay, whatever. Oh, and somebody has photoshopped meme faces on Bigfoot and then put him in places. So already there's less legitimacy to me on this, you know?
Well, there is, but that's not going to keep people who are bored from going out there and trying to find it.
And that's a problem because this dude is in the middle of constructing an actual thing and
Skywalk.
A skywalk. And
yeah.
I mean, if there's like in this photo, what looks like construction equipment and materials laying around. Those could injure somebody. So stay away from Eureka, California.
Yeah, but I know, and that's kind of the point I was trying to make, is then why even talk about it?
Yeah.
Now, I would not be surprised that when the skywalk is completed for them to go ahead and, put up their little funny signs about Bigfoot, and Bigfoot leaves no trace, and neither should you, stuff like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, so which one's the kind of the lesser of the two evils there? Anytime you talk about something, like any publicity is good publicity, you're going to get people who are going to be like, let's go check it out because they said not to. And there's going to be other people who are like, yes, let's go check it out because they're hiding something. At the end of the day, I think this article may bring more people to go to that particular dangerous area that hasn't been completed yet, because anytime you're building a skywalk through trees and stuff like that, the opportunity to kill yourself to death is there, I'm sure.
Sure.
So I just thought it was kind of funny that you got one group saying, come on down and get a hunting license, and another group saying, stay away. We don't want you here because we don't have any Bigfoot, but if we did, we still wouldn't want you here because we're building a skywalk.
I don't know.
Because of a blurry photo. It's Eureka's Redwood Skywalk concept. Basically, you can walk on a skywalk bridge through the redwood trees.
It's a beautiful park.
Yeah, looks pretty neat. And you'll be about 100 feet from the forest floor.
Cool.
It's a $4 million canopy trail that will extend a 1/4 mile into the forest. So, it's going to be like Ewok Village, man. You know how they had Ewoks?
Yeah.
So I thought that was just kind of funny. Yep. What do you think?
I was just reading more about this park once it opens, because it connects to, it's on the outskirts of Eureka, connects with green corridors of private and public forests, like Six Rivers National Forest, which has had some unusual cryptid and Bigfoot type sightings, as well as Redwood National Park. And then they go on to talk about history, like the Patterson-Gimlin and Willow Creek, which is the so-called Bigfoot capital of the world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. But I would go just to see the big giant redwoods. So.
Not yet.
Okay.
Can't go until I tell you it's cool.
I know, right?
All right. All right, so let's move back into the podcast, talk about some more stuff. But before we do that, we're going to take a quick break, play a little commercial action for Audible, and then we'll be right back. I just got to figure out which button it is. Let's go. Pow. Audible is audio entertainment that entertains, educates, and inspires. For you, the listeners of the CreepGeeks Podcast, Audible is offering a free audiobook download with a 30-day free trial to give you the opportunity to check out their service. To download your free audiobook today, go to audibletrial.com/CheapGeek. Again, that's audibletrial.com/CheapGeek for your free audiobook. Enjoy this with your free trial. 30 days of membership free, plus 2 free audiobooks that are yours forever. 1 credit a month after trial, good for any book regardless of price. Exclusive member savings. Get 30% off additional audiobooks. Easy exchanges. Don't love a book? Swap it for free. Anytime, seriously. Again, that's audibletrial.com/CheapGeek for your free audiobook today. And we're back.
Yep.
All right, so this is something that I listened to the other day with you when we were eating delicious McDonald's.
Use that term loosely.
Yeah. Because it was there. It was convenient, and, sometimes you just need a chicken nugget. Yeah. And I'm sure there's people out there going, I don't eat that kind of... I don't care. I eat hot dogs, too. Because they're delicious. Right. But no, so we played this Mysterious Universe podcast episode, and it talked about Men in Black.
Okay.
And everybody's interested in Men in Black. I like Men in Black too. I'm not talking about the movies, although the movies are kind of cool.
Yeah.
Except for the third one was not good. Which one was the third one? Fourth one?
I don't remember. Yeah. They all kind of string together for a while there. So.
Yeah, anyway, it doesn't seem like they got any better. I guess it's the one with Thor in it.
Okay.
Wasn't a fan of that one. But, but if you want to, fight it out in the parking lot or something like that, just let me know. You send us a little email at CreepGeeks.
Contact at creepgeeks.com.
Yeah. But the article kind of goes, and it sort of, I shouldn't say article, but the podcast talks about a couple of different things, but it sort of led into a couple of other different things. And one thing being that they talk about Men in Black, but then there's sort of a follow-up article on their website, mysteriousuniverse.org, where it talks about, why the Men in Black are not government agents.
Okay.
Which I thought was pretty interesting,
And for me, it felt like with what they discussed in the podcast episode and then what kind of gets elaborated on in this article is how the Men in Black, it's not just like what some people have characterized as like a secret government branch. It's like they surpass that, and they are
it's got
an element of the phenomenon.
It's got its own kind of lore where it's like they're not really government agents necessarily, and are they really the good guys?
Yeah.
And there's links to all this stuff on mysteriousuniverse.org, but I thought it was kind of interesting, the premise that maybe Men in Black are there to do different things. And then it sort of got all the way into the idea that maybe Men in Black are more paranormal in nature than just sort of, the whole, we're government people in nature.
Are they an element of the paranormal phenomenon? Like, are they like a standard, like, okay, if you see a UFO or if you see a cryptid or something, is it mandatory almost for the Men in Black to be an element of that phenomenon? Because a lot of the more significant events that we know of, whether it's like a UFO, alien encounter, or, some sort of strange cryptid type thing, afterward, there's all these anecdotal stories of encountering these mysterious government type agents. So does that define whether or not the experience was truly a paranormal phenomenon or incident? And while I want to say yes, I don't know, because there's a lot of incidents out there that I consider paranormal where there was no Men in Black follow-up,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, that just means that the experience wasn't good enough. Right? So you had the idea that the Men in Black and Women in Black, are kind of there to cause distraction, a diversion, to what you've seen versus, you know what I'm saying? It's like they want a little misdirection going on. And that was one of the things that they talked about was like, are they there because they're causing distraction, diversion, and in some cases misery, or a disturbance, right, to prevent or cloud the actual issue. And that issue would really be disclosure. You witness or become part of a paranormal event or UFO event or 14 kind of phenomenon, and then these guys show up, and it sort of wrecks the whole thing.
You mean...
And therefore you don't know what you've seen, what you experienced, what you're feeling. You know what I'm saying? Because...
So...
And the tactics they use would change, I guess, probably depending on your personality type. There's been all sorts of weird things with these guys.
And that just makes me think of like, okay, if the paranormal experience in itself is traumatic, then the Men in Black is a way to prevent outcry, So...
Or attention. If you're not supposed to know, or if we're not ready to know, or whatever, and you got these guys showing up, and it sort of derails the entire experience, right?
Mm-hmm.
And basically takes the essence of the experience through reports and investigations and all that sort of thing, and just sort of wrecks the entire thing, which sort of discredits the entire thing, then it becomes a non-issue.
I mean... Yeah, for the general not aware public that did not have the experience.
Well, and then the only thing it does for the people that are aware and do pay attention is like their firsthand experience, or they're knowledgeable in the subject that they basically look for it. They tie it into the whole experience, like, oh, Men in Black. So that means it more legitimate, makes the whatever it was more legitimate, right?
Yeah.
To them, but to everybody else, the populace, the non-disclosure seeking world, they don't care because they don't really hear about it.
And it's funny because Nick Redfern wrote this article, and then at the bottom there's a suggested article, and it piggybacks off what we've just said. Men in Black, are they really the good guys? You know, and you just said that like a minute ago, and it's like...
But, I mean, if they're the good guys, what are they the good guys for? Are they trying to protect us by keeping the idea of disclosure and the idea that maybe all of this stuff is either real or whatever, whether it be UFOs, Bigfoots, cryptids, whatever, right? Because they're typically more associated with like paranormal stuff and UFO stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So if they're trying to protect us from ourselves so that it doesn't become a more popular or a known fact sort of thing about the life we live in, are they trying to do that for our own benefit, or are they trying to do that for something else's benefit? Or is there something there entirely different? So who's the good guy? Like, if they're trying to be the good guys and protect us, who are they trying to protect us from or for?
And then there's that third option, which kind of goes into the Rosemary Ellen Guiley territory, which is the suggestion that Men in Black are Jinn, and they're merely observers.
And they want the energy, the chaos energy, the misery. They want all that.
Or in this case, since it's a Men in Black, it's not the energy in this realm would be the knowledge or the experience.
Yes.
So, and the way I felt with this was like, if I were to break down Men in Black and compare them, because a lot of people are like, oh, they're a secret government organization, or they're a secret ultra terrestrial. And okay, fine. If we take it down to them being like a government official or an organization, then I'm going to compare them to first responders. So let's go ahead and say we're going to compare a UFO abduction or UFO sighting to a mugging. If a human gets mugged, the human calls the police. They make an outcry of their mugging or whatever happened. They got beat up. The police file a police report. They do their investigation, blah, blah, blah. But if a UFO sighting happens and a Men in Black immediately responds to whatever it is, or, you know, not saying you called a Men in Black, hey, I'd like to report a UFO sighting, but instead of taking down the report, investigating, following up with the person, it seems to be all detrimental. There's no positive resolution for the human. And that's where I have a problem, because I don't think they're a good guy. So,
or what if they're so far above it that they don't necessarily care?
And yeah,
I mean, think about it like this. Okay, you own animals.
Yeah.
And you generally look after the animal and all that stuff, but at the end of the day, that animal is an animal, right?
Yeah.
And so if you're just kind of like trying to control or do what you're supposed to do on direction from whatever, and at the end of the day, you don't humanize the humans, and you want to make sure that whatever information you need or whatever you're trying to do gets done, you don't really care about how it affects the humans. And if you take the emotionality out of it, but the result is to, you know, stop a person from talking or throw them off balance, so they will, you know, generally want it to all go away, so they'll stop looking into it or they'll stop paying attention to it, and that result gets achieved. You don't really care that this person may be going down that path where their entire life has been wrecked, you know, or like showing up, possibly dressed, you know, like army officers to tell people that their sons were killed in Vietnam when they really weren't.
Yeah.
And then later on, that may have been like a scam. You know what I'm saying? There's all that sort of thing. And like when people have different experiences that warrant a Men in Black type response, is that Men in Black response there to stop it? Like they keep it from spreading, to keep that ripple effect from actually happening? Or is the fact that they're there to sort of change things so that a certain outcome that occurs from their intervention, whatever it is what actually causes the future events to happen? You see what I'm saying? Why are they really there? And
see, that's where I can't.
And when did they show up? Because, I mean, there's some people that say that Men in Black have been around for a long time, and there's that ultra secret organization, and that you could almost look at the Knights Templar as being kind of like Men in Black, even though they weren't. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know. And the thing is that there's so many different types of like instances of Men in Black reports that seem to have happened from like the late 40s into nowadays that don't really match up to anything beforehand. You know, And there was like, for a minute there, people were thinking that Men in Black were actually part of the U.S. government as part of Operation Blue Book to discredit whoever has a report, because they were really trying to hide the whole UFO thing. And the Project Blue Book was really just there as a diversionary tactic to make the public happy.
Allegedly.
Yeah.
But then you have the other descriptions, countless descriptions of Men in Black where they don't behave as a human.
Yeah.
Or their actions are mimicry of human behavior.
And it's always a little off. There's always something off.
And that kind of goes with the whole, I have a hard time perceiving their interactions after events as, benevolent or malevolent. I don't know. I kind of feel like you were saying, there's some sort of greater ulterior motive. And that ulterior motive transcends, in my opinion, them being an actual government or top secret organization.
Yeah, I don't know what they are. But see, here's the thing, and here's what I've been thinking for a lot of stuff that's too hard to explain.
Okay.
It's more like this. I think that you have Men in Black who are from the government. And I think that you also have Men in Black that are not from the government, that are from something else. You know what I mean? I think you have military craft that are UFOs because they're experimental, top secret military craft. But I also think at one time there was a possibility that there was UFOs. Yeah. You see what I'm saying? So I think that a lot of the multiple versions of things that we hear, that you have certain commonalities, but a lot of factors that make things a little bit different, sort of dilutes the entire idea because there's so many different sort of outlying factors, is because there's multiple versions. Like shadow people. I think you have shadow people that are observers. I think there's shadow people that are there to suck up your energy. And I think there's the other ones that are there to cause the chaos and discontent and all that stuff because they thrive off of it. There'd be multiple versions.
Okay.
Like ghosts. You've got residual haunts, right? They just keep repeating the same thing over and over and over again. Then you've got interactive or semi-intelligent or even intelligent haunts where it's like people. So I think that there's so many different levels of this onion that's the whole Fortiana thing.
Yeah.
That in some ways it's all true. If it is true. And like we talked about dire wolves. Dire wolves are big giant wolves and they evidently existed at one time. Does that make them werewolves? I don't know. And then you've got Dogman, right? Dogman's wolf stands up on, or it could be a wolf, giant wolf, canine, or dog stands up on two legs and runs around. Some people say that's just an offshoot of Sasquatch to a certain degree. And that Sasquatch and the Dogman hang out together. And the Dogman and Sasquatch communicate by making coyote sounds.
Okay.
That, in some ways, the Dogman is Sasquatch's pet. And then you got other people say, well, UFOs actually drop off Sasquatch on the planet, right?
Yeah.
That they work for the Greys. Or it's like it all, and maybe it all has certain elements of truth for each thing. So it would make sense to have a government investigatory branch that goes out and investigates, this sort of thing to see if any secrets or national security secrets or whatever being leaked or whatever to determine if you're a threat. And I also think that you also have, think about it. If you're in the military, and depending on what job you work, you could be issued a black suit.
Yeah.
Black jacket, black pants, black shoes, right? Black socks, skinny black tie. It was a uniform. You were issued that sort of thing to go out and do your job. So I think the Men in Black actually existed at one time, but I do think that maybe it's been absconded by something else to sort of fit in that sort of mimicry to kind of, to kind of do what they got to do.
Yeah.
And then you have reports like of weird stuff like, they'll interact with you in a way and then just completely disappear. Like on Mysterious Universe, talk about like the phantom photographers. You have an experience. The next day, somebody shows up, sets up a tripod, takes a couple pictures, throws it in the back of the car, and then takes off. Like, what is that?
Yeah.
Phantom meter readers, where they just show up and say, "We're here to read your meter," and they go down to read the meter or whatever, and they've been down there for like an hour, and you come down and they're gone.
Yeah, but you know what? I've actually been described as that this year because I did a couple events in
Yeah, but you're obviously not a Man in Black.
I know, but I don't look like everybody around here.
Why did you talk like that? They can't hear your voice if they just see you taking pictures out in the woods.
I know, but they're like, she showed up, she took some pictures, and then she disappeared. And then it's like, yeah.
Well, I mean, at least if somebody wanted to ask or whatever, you'd have a story. But the thing about these Men in Black dudes is that you never see them again.
Yeah.
You know, we actually had a guy pull up in front of our house and start snapping some pictures and then drive away. Come to find out he was supposed to be like the insurance, home insurance inspector. Because later on, just in case you guys are interested, we got a little thing saying, oh, your roof is destroyed in your house. And all. Dude never even got out of his car.
Yeah.
And so I had to call the company and go, hey, man, the guy never got out of his car. So if he can inspect a house from being inside his car, why did I spend $500 for a home inspection before I bought the house? Because I'd rather just hire that guy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's just that weirdness, the general off about the whole thing. I think that makes the whole thing sort of weird. And people were saying, you know, their facial features are all off. And there's different types of Men in Black experiences where, you know, the facial features are different. Like one report, you know, the tall, angular, olive skin, kind of possibly Laplander, like they were saying. I don't know what a Laplander is exactly, but from the Keel reports, you know, from being like sort of, you know, have that sort of what they used to call a Spanish complexion, which is more olive skin and tall and angular face and all that sort of thing.
A Laplander is a native or inhabitant of the northern European region of Lapland.
That's great. That's like saying the same thing about if you're a Virginian.
Yeah.
It doesn't give me enough information, you know, and that's okay. And there was other, you know, sort of instances where people have had reports of like the Women in Black where they look, you know, some have the big eyes and they look like they could be grays, you know, some are missing
Hybrids.
body parts and hybrids and all. So there's just all this sort of thing going on. And what if these are all like a secret investigatory team of the Galactic Federation and they've been sent down there and you're like a deputy or, you know, like a new guy agent, and you've been sent down to the planet to go find out what's up with Omi out there taking weird pictures that she experienced something and you just don't fit the bill. Because you got little spindly tentacle arms instead of having regular human arms, so you look weird in a suit.
Okay. No.
We don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, because that would be more playing into the Men in Black where they have different agents that are actually not humans.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like Agent SpongeBob or whatever. He's a, you know. So it's weird, man. I don't know, but I think that what you were saying earlier about, you know, it's not a good, as in we know, happy-go-lucky experience. You know, they're not maybe necessarily the good guys, but it's more of a negative experience, and that acts like the Jinn. They're there for whatever reason, and they have that trickster element, and they don't really care, and they're even more dangerous. Because here's the thing, though, there seems to be a common underlier. I shouldn't say underlier, but it seems to be the most common thing to really look out for. When you start investigating this stuff, it investigates you. Because as you become more aware, right, it becomes more aware of you.
The longer you stare into the abyss, eventually the abyss stares back into you.
Yeah, so, that's what I said.
I know.
Just not as
eloquently.
I wasn't even going to say eloquently because you butchered it too. But I mean, that's the thing though, and that kind of makes sense because, you know.
But see, that goes back into what I said towards the beginning, which is like, is the Men in Black phenomenon actually just a part or a piece of the overall paranormal experience that you had?
Yeah.
So if it is a part of the phenomenon, as in it investigates you back when you investigate it, then that almost makes it like a mandatory or a critical aspect of some of these experiences.
If you're on the right track.
True.
I think you've got so many instances of people out there that are interested in this kind of thing, but they don't really have, or they haven't really got to the point where it's made. So that sort of like, in other words, you know, hey, this is great. We're going to go look for an underground military base, and you don't really ever find it or anything. Yeah. But that one time you stumble onto something,
but that's
when you get on somebody's radar, if you will.
Yeah, but that also means though, your perception of what happened during your paranormal experience also determines whether or not the Men in Black come. Your perception and outcome, I should say. So
maybe
I don't know.
Well, nobody knows. And that's the most frustrating thing. Nobody really knows. But, I mean, and then it could all be the same thing to where it's like all this stuff has existed, been around forever, but until your eyes are really open, you don't see it. And if you go back to the Men in Black movies, right?
Yeah.
I believe it was the first movie that he wasn't ever really looking. But then when he left the pie shop or the diner where he got the pie or whatever and started really taking a look, you could see you could see it. He became more open to it, more aware to it. He was going to step on that bug or roach or cricket, and the guy was like, damn nice of you, man. That kind of thing. Yeah. And the little eyeballs and the tentacles coming in that weird, that kind of thing.
People on the tandem bicycle.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I was like, oh, okay.
I don't know. It's a thing. It's a nice idea with scary consequences, I believe, to a certain degree. But, and then what are these things that actually happen? Are they synchronicities or are things as they're supposed to be? And maybe if you start looking into it and things start to click and keep clicking, is that the path you're supposed to be on? But I think in a lot of ways that once you get on that path and things just kept clicking along and you keep getting those synchronicities and stuff, that they never end. And it's always circular, and I think it's only designed to lead you astray and lead you down that path of, destruction, if you will.
I don't know, because I don't want to say that in the sense that, what if you never have a Men in Black experience, but you do have a legitimate UFO or paranormal experience?
That's what I'm talking about, like all 14. But see, that's the difference, though. If you experience things, but you're not actively looking for it, that's one thing.
But if you are actively looking for it and you do not have a Men in Black experience, I don't want, with the way the paranormal researcher community and ufology community are going lately, I don't want to make Men in Black like a defining critical aspect or determination as to whether or not your UFO or paranormal experience was genuine.
Well, no, I get that.
Kind of like, okay, so like with the example being Bigfoot. For the longest time, it was like not well known, but does Bigfoot have an odor? Is there a certain sound? And you could listen to people retelling their experiences, and if you didn't pick up on those things from their initial account, you kind of felt it was like less genuine. So are we now going to say if somebody has a UFO experience that doesn't involve...
You probably shouldn't say less genuine. Maybe less... maybe their experience wasn't a Sasquatch. Because, less genuine would mean, if you're like, yeah.
Okay. But still, do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, I totally get what you're saying. But what I was trying to say earlier is that I wasn't even factoring in what other people think.
But
like other investigators and all that sort of thing.
And I don't want it to be put in people's mindsets that, if you see a UFO and 3 days go by and the Men in Black haven't visited your house, it doesn't mean you still didn't see a UFO.
Oh, yeah.
If
anything, if you've seen something and they do show up, then you either have two choices.
Yeah.
Continue on or forget about the whole damn thing. Because the real reason is that why are they actually there? Are you getting close to something, or are they just there to see, like, investigate you? Are you a nut job? Are you going to proceed with this any further? What are you going to do?
I don't know. I just want the mythos or traditional anecdotal experiences of Men in Black to remain just an additional experience, kind of like
but all that depends on which one shows up.
Kind of like the large-eyed rabbits or owls after certain UFO experiences,
or the two Men in Black that show up.
Yeah,
that's just it, though. You don't know necessarily what you're going to get.
Okay.
So if we had Men in Black show up, would we continue doing the same thing? It depends, because, as far as we know, we don't know. What impact would we have on whatever it is we're looking into? Not as much as somebody like Keel.
Yeah. Who
was writing about it, putting it out there, and getting paid for his story. So, how much is real versus embellishment? I don't know. But you see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. I think if you're more of a threat or somebody that might bring more attention to something that probably shouldn't have, depending on who it is, whether it's government or something else. Who knows?
Okay.
Or if it's Jinn and it's a trickster element and it's there to drive you crazy and wreck your entire world, that's one thing. Who knows? The fact is that I don't necessarily think that the Men in Black are good guys, and I don't think they're necessarily there to protect us and our own good. Mm-hmm. I think they're there to sort of
protect a different agenda.
Yeah.
Or they have a different motive.
Yeah.
So.
And it's just, I don't know. I think it'd probably be easier to deal with government. You know, I mean, because they do investigate you. Like if you try to join the military and you want to get a job that has a secret, top secret clearance, they're going to investigate you, and they do show up. Mm-hmm. But they don't look like Men in Black. I mean, the guys that showed up to investigate and ask my family questions about me to determine if I could get a clearance or not looked like used car salesmen.
Yeah.
And they weren't even good suits either. They looked like, one of the guys wore like, the old school sort of like couch material suits from like the 80s and stuff. It was just,
with
it wasn't
suede
good.
elbows.
It didn't even have the suede elbows. It wasn't like microfiber. It was like macrofiber, otherwise known as polyester. And they didn't look as cool as like NCIS like you see on TV. It wasn't nothing like that. But
okay.
I mean, who knows? Who knows what does what and who does who? But the Men in Black thing, I mean, I wouldn't mind necessarily seeing some Men in Black eyeballing us.
Well,
but
we have reports of them in this area. So,
well, I think you can report any weirdo. I mean, you're probably somebody's Men in Black.
I know,
And
right?
she had purple hair.
And she took a bunch of pictures.
And then she ran away real quick.
She ran down a block and disappeared.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, into an art gallery.
Yeah, that'll show them. I don't know, but anyway, we've been kind of rambling on a little bit, talking about a little bit about Men in Black and some of the things, but that's the thing about it. And all of this stuff is if you start to do the research and you open that door and you fall down the rabbit hole, it's kind of hard to determine what's what and who's who, for sure.
Yeah.
So, I still think that they definitely fit in the paranormal realm.
Yeah.
I mean, because you've got some of them that are like, you know, and because one of the things that they brought up was, you know, they showed up in a shiny black Cadillac, and then the next time you see them, they're in something completely different because it's almost like they're aware of what you said.
Okay.
Oh, we got to be diversion. So instead of being a shiny black Cadillac, it's a Volkswagen. You know, I don't know. It's just strange things like that. So who knows? Yeah. Then again, they could be the creators of the Matrix. They're sending out like a bunch of agents to correct us.
Okay.
Because we're just blips in the code, man. I mean, if Windows at one time can operate with 14,000 errors in its code, what's up with this? The Matrix would be huge.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you called Men in Black like Norton.
No. Just debuggers.
Debuggers.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know. If you have any questions, comments, concerns about the whole Men in Black thing, let us know.
Yep. Contact at CreepGeeks.com, or you can always give us a call. That's going to be 575-208-4025. Guys, I am still collecting stories about shadow people, or heck, even Men in Black experiences. I'm looking for experiences that were either on sacred land, indigenous land, or historic locations. So if you've had a unique experience with any type of phenomenon, I want to hear about it as it pertains to old locations. So go ahead, email us. It's going to be contact@creepgeeks.com, or hit us up on social media. We have Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. We got everywhere you can hit us up on, and we are trying to get that Facebook group to grow. So Creep Geeks Facebook group, real easy to find. Did we mention Patreon, our Patreon supporters?
No. Are you quizzing me?
Well,
are you quizzing me?
Yeah, I just want to make sure every episode we give them a big shout out. And, our podcast episodes are supported by Dave, Isis, James, Bobby, John, and John. We really appreciate their patronage. If you want to support us on Patreon, you can do so by going to patreon.com/CreepGeeks.
And we're on TikTok too. If you guys want to check out the old TikToks.
Yeah, we should put a link in
little
there.
Thumbs up or heart or whatever it is you want to do over there. You can certainly do that.
Yep.
So we've been slowly filtering things in. But anyway, so do appreciate you listening and taking the time.
Yeah.
So let's all be careful out there. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. So anyway, this has been the Creep Geeks Podcast, episode number 206. So any questions, comments, concerns, let us know. But otherwise, see you later. Take it easy. Bye-bye.
Bye.